Tell me a little bit about today. Tell me what's going through your mind.
Really overwhelming. I am so happy to have all of these people who are part of my life here with me today to celebrate this. Like I said earlier, this is not something I do by myself. This is something that takes the support of all the people that are in my life, my family, my administrators, my school district. Everybody's got to work together to help me be successful. So I kind of feel today like a lot of this honor is coming towards me, but it really should be directed more at the people that I work with and my family and at our school district, because they're the people that let me do all the fantastic things that I do.
As I say, I mean, being Teacher of the Year obviously doesn't just equate just one person. Obviously, it takes a village and all that stuff. I mean, what is it like to have the people you work with and the environment that you're able to do so well at?
Well, like I said, it's really fantastic that no one has ever told me no. I go to them and I ask for things. I ask for supplies. I ask for support. I ask for the things that it takes to make school happen. Science and engineering education is very materials intensive. It's very labor and time intensive. I've got to have a lot of supplies to pull off a lab. It takes time to set it up. And so to be able to have people that help me step in and provide those. I also work towards my community as well. My community is extremely supportive. We were able to form partnerships with the College of Idaho. We're able to form partnerships with Northwest Nazarene University. We form partnerships with Boise State and their future Hispanic engineering program. And it's all these partnerships, I think, that really are why I'm here today, is my ability to reach out to the community and form those partnerships.
Tell us a little bit about some of those fun programs that you get to do.
Well, I was just actually putting together a calendar the other day, and I can't believe how crazy my calendar actually looks. In the fall, I start off the fall with Future City Engineering Project, which is a national engineering competition my students compete in. The students are given some type of a challenge every year that has to do with real-life cities and real-life situations, and then they have to work in project management groups in a very real-life collaboration work group situation and come up with a solution to the problem. There's several components to the project, so the kids are working in task groups, they've got group leaders, it's all very student-driven, and I really get the opportunity to just kind of walk around and facilitate. But it gives the kids an experience with engineering. They get mentors from the community who come in and work with them on a regular basis. And then the most exciting part is we get to go to Boise State in January, and we get to compete against other schools and show off all of our knowledge to real engineers from the real world. It's not just something Mrs. Ferro came up with in the back of her head. This is really a thing. And so it's fantastic to go out and talk to those engineers who are in the field, who are in the profession, who treat my students like they're equals, who treat my students like they're knowledgeable. My kids come away just on cloud 9, and it doesn't help that, or it doesn't hurt that they get all-you-can-eat pizza and chocolate milk at the competition. So, other things that my kids participate in is we work with the Science and Math to Engineering Bowl. U.S. Department of Engineering has a Science and Math Bowl competition, and we compete in that every year also at Boise State, another partnership there. My kids get a chance to do kind of trivia-style questions where they form a team and they work on general knowledge, science, and math questions. They actually dedicate every Friday of the school year in a practice session to that, and it's a really great way to have my kids. We're not super competitive, but it's a great way to show them that science and math can be fun and interesting. One of my girls went home and told her parents after the first practice, she goes, "It was really fun, even though there were a lot of nerds there." So an opportunity to show the kids that being a nerd can actually be a fun thing, and creating a social environment around math and science to me is great. We also take every other summer, we go to Tampa, Florida, and we participate in a hands-on science habitat exploration of the Tampa area. We start inland in their freshwater spring system, which is super different than anything we have here in Idaho. And the kids get a chance to do water testing, they get to do macroinvertebrate species counts, they get a chance to interact with dissections. And during the week, we slowly work our way out to the mangrove swamps, which are marshy, brackish water, and then we end the week out in the Gulf of Mexico. And again, repeating the same chemistry tests, the same macroinvertebrate surveys, so the kids really get an idea of how different these environments are just in this one geographic area. Really gives them a chance to explore some career options that might be available to them, especially in the area of veterinary studies or marine biology, or things that we don't have here in Idaho, like a lot of diving programs, being able to work as a professional diver. The kids get an opportunity to actually swim with a manatee and pet a manatee during this trip, which, considering that they're endangered, is something that may not happen here in 10 years. So a great chance for Caldwell kids to really smell and touch and taste and roll around in science. That's really kind of my goal with science in general, is I want the kids to have lots of positive hands-on experiences with it, because the more positive hands-on experiences they have with science and math and engineering at middle school, the more likely they are to continue into the classes in high school and go on into college and have that perseverance that it takes to get through what can be difficult and challenging course material. If they develop a love for it now, a passion for it now, then they'll be able to continue on and fill those STEM jobs that are going to be the money in the future, where my kids can really be successful in the future. Other things that we have going on, we work with the Discover Technology Bus. We bring that in the spring every year and do an assembly and a hands-on exploration day for our students. My students partner with Deer Flat National Wildlife Refuge and do a citizen science, I hate to call it a science fair, because when I say the word science fair, everybody has that horrible flashback to middle school when you had to make the paper mache volcano the night before it was due with your mom and dad at the kitchen table and they were angry at you. It's not that kind of science fair. It's much more of an authentic science, citizen science activity where the kids go out and formulate a question around a real life problem. This year with Deer Flat, we're going to talk a lot about their algae overgrowth this year that's been in the news. They're having problems with blue-green algae. It's affecting the fish, it's affecting the birds, it's affecting boaters, it's affecting people's dogs. And we're going to come up with some kind of a research problem that we can go out and investigate. And we'll actually take a trip out there, collect authentic data, analyze it, put it on display boards, and that's what we'll be able to show off for our public in May. Much more authentic, much more real-world citizen science than your traditional paper mache volcano. My 8th graders will be doing a similar project, only theirs will come with a couple of additional components. They'll have to write a science-formatted research paper, similar to one that might be published in an actual science journal, so they get familiar with the APA format of writing, which is really different than the MLA that we teach in our English classes. And they get the opportunity to partner with the College of Idaho, and they get the opportunity to give an oral presentation, almost like a thesis defense, to the professors and the grad students at C of I. We also partner with College of Idaho in the summer to do our Math and Science Summer Institute. This will be, I think, our 9th year making that partnership happen. Our kids, our 7th and 8th graders, get to spend a week on campus getting taught by college professors, working with college grad students. Our 8th graders stay in the dorms, they get a college experience, they eat in the cafeteria, they hang out in the rec room, but most importantly, they get an opportunity to really experience what a math or a science course at college might look like. And they're doing it with people who match them in gender and in ethnicity, and a lot of times in socioeconomic background, so that they're seeing that people just like them are able to go on. We really want our kids to not just be looking through the mirror, or looking through, the window and watching other people do math and science. We want them looking in a mirror and seeing themselves doing math and science. So to me, it's really important to give them those mirror opportunities where they're seeing themselves as the scientist rather than just watching someone else do it in a video clip or watching someone else do it on TV.
I mean, you just listed, I mean, a lot of great, activities and a lot of great projects that, you're being able to get these kids experienced in. What has it been like over the years having that challenge of taking what, was a very difficult subject in math and science and getting these kids involved, getting them into projects and getting them, involved in something that they can have a future?
Well, first of all, I would hope that my passion for the subject is evident, and I hope that the relationships that I build with my students make it so that they're interested in sharing my passions and my excitement. I think that the more relationships that I'm able to build with my students and with my community members, I mean, I work out at the local YMCA. I do Zumba with the mothers of part of my student body. So I'm constantly working in the community and helping to build those partnerships so that they trust me enough to expose themselves to something that might be an uncomfortable or difficult situation. And I also think in the bigger picture, we at Syringa here have done a great job in trying to create an environment where it's safe to fail. Because if you don't fail, you probably didn't really try very hard. I really love the engineering design process because it really stresses that idea of iteration, that you've got to come at things several times. And I think a lot of our students are so uncomfortable with failure and so it's a bad word in our culture, I think, today. Failure is not an option, Apollo 13. But in reality, I think failure is the only way you learn something out of life. And here at Syringa, we've made it available to the students to come and try things and fail and still be able to come back the next day and try it. So to me, it's more about building a culture where science and engineering and mathematics is something you can be successful at and that you can fail at and still come back and be successful at. And all that comes down to relationships.
I know this is all really new, and it just happened quickly this morning. But along with being Teacher of the Year, you get opportunities and you get a platform. Past Teachers of the Year have been able to travel the state and speak with educators and groups all over the state. They've been invited to go before the legislature and talk to the House and Senate education committees. What would you like to do with your opportunity and your messages as Teacher of the Year? If you get to talk to the legislature, if you get to travel and bring your message to a wider audience outside of Syringa, outside of your community in Caldwell?
It's interesting that you asked that, because that's actually the final question on the Teacher of the Year application,
is
what is your platform, how do you want to communicate? And I channeled my inner elementary school teacher that I don't even really have, but my mother, I channeled my inner mother, and I said that I really want to be the Lorax. I want to be the person who speaks for people who can't speak for themselves. So many of Caldwell's students don't have the ability financially, don't have the ability socioeconomically, don't have the ability language-wise, don't have the ability education-wise to speak for themselves. They cannot advocate for themselves. They don't have the resources to do that. And so I think that my most valuable role is to be an advocate to speak for them. I'm the person who has the platform to go out there and tell the legislators that education is valuable. My students have potential. My students are worth an investment. And so if I have the opportunity to do anything, I think it's to be a Lorax for public education and to remind people that it's really the cornerstone of what our entire democracy is built on. It's that common denominator that every kid who walks through our doors at Syringa deserves access to, and equitable access to. And the more I can advocate for that, the more I can advocate for partnerships to provide funding and resources, the more I can advocate for partnerships to provide education and outreach opportunities, the more I can provide a platform for people to ask for people to come into our schools and work with us. To me, I think that's the most valuable thing that comes out of me winning this award.
Just one other thing real quick. I always think it's fascinating to ask teachers how old they were and why they originally decided to get into education.
Well, this is also a great story. I am the product of two teachers. I said that if you were to do a genetics problem, my dad's a high school teacher and my mom's an elementary teacher, and so they ended up with 3 middle school teachers, because that's how inheritance works. But when we were growing up, my little sister always wanted to be a teacher. That was what she wanted to do from day one. And my line, ever since I was a little kid, was always, I want to be anything but an educator. I always wanted to be a scientist. The flavor of scientist changed as we went through. I wanted to be a paleontologist. I wanted to be a marine biologist. I wanted to be a genetic engineer. But I was always passionate about STEM. But I saw what my parents went through. I saw the hours they spent grading papers. I saw the hours they put into parent contacts. I saw the hours they put into things like bulletin boards that make classrooms inviting and welcoming places for kids. And I said, given the way that you get treated, given the respect that you get, I'm not putting in those hours. I will be anything but a teacher. And they said, fine, encouraged me to follow my passions, and I went off to college. And I called home sobbing my sophomore year of college, and I said, Mom, I'm changing my major. I'm going to be a teacher. Because when it came down to it, I decided that there was more value in me inspiring the next generation of scientists and engineers, of me mentoring the next generation of scientists and engineers, than there was in me actually becoming the next generation of scientists and engineers. So that's my path to education, kind of in a roundabout backwards way. I've been in a classroom since I was old enough to walk, but I didn't decide until sophomore year of college that I needed to be in front of a classroom.
And I think you mentioned it, but you grew up here. You are a Caldwell graduate?
Yeah. I am part of this community. I'm extremely vested in this community. I graduated from Caldwell High School. I went to my entire K-12, well, not K-12 because I didn't go to kindergarten. I went to my entire 112 education here in Caldwell. After a couple of years away at college, I ended up marrying my high school sweetheart and moved back to the area. So we are homeowners in this area. My children have all attended the schools. I work in the schools. I think that I have just about as much invested in the Caldwell School District as anybody living here. So it's extremely important to me that our kids in Caldwell are successful and that our kids in Caldwell have opportunities.
Can I just ask, where does your passion for science come from?
I don't know. I think I've always been a nerd. I was born a nerd. Like I said, it's always been an interest to me. I've always wanted to go into some type of science. The flavor has changed depending on what my current interests were. But right now I'm actually certified to teach all natural sciences, so I'm interested in biology and geology and chemistry and physics. It all is extremely fascinating to me. I'm really getting excited about the new world of STEM, so integrating the engineering and the technology and the mathematics into my classes, and really providing kind of that well-rounded, hands-on problem-solving experience for my kids. But yeah, it's always been science for me.